Hello guys, welcome back to TFD. So today I actually want to start this off on a positive note, and I mean that genuinely, because when it comes to these CBA negotiations, it feels like every other headline has been tense, dramatic, or just flat out messy. But when Breonna Stewart speaks, it usually feels different. It feels measured, it feels constructive, and that matters right now. Let's be honest, a lot of the public conversation around these negotiations has rubbed people the wrong way. You've got fans looking at the numbers and saying, wait a minute, didn't the players just get a 700% increase in certain areas? And then when the response sounds like, well, that's not enough, we wanted 900%, some people are going to react negatively. That's just reality. Fair or not, optics matter. Now, that doesn't mean the players are wrong for negotiating hard. That's literally what a CBA is for. Nobody goes into a negotiation asking for less. But at the same time, nobody walks out with everything they asked for either. That's not how collective bargaining works in the WNBA, the NBA, the NFL, anywhere. It's compromise. It's push and pull. What makes this recent update feel different is the word movement. There's traction, there's direction, and that's the first time in a while it hasn't felt like both sides were just digging in their heels. The league has reportedly doubled the max salary from its original proposal. That's not small, that's significant. If we're talking about numbers jumping toward the $1.5 million range, that's a massive shift from where things started. So to act like ownership hasn't moved at all wouldn't be accurate. At the same time, the players believe the growth is sustainable. They see the ratings climbing, the sponsorships growing, the cultural momentum building. They believe now is the time to push. The owners, on the other hand, are cautious. They're asking, what if this growth slows down? What if we lock ourselves into numbers that aren't sustainable long term? That's the fundamental tension. It's not about disrespect, it's about risk tolerance. And here's where I think the veteran voices matter most. Players like Breonna Stewart, leaders who understand both the locker room and the business side. Because messaging matters, tone matters. When the public conversation turns into sit out until you get exactly what you want, that sounds powerful, but it's not always practical. A strike doesn't just pressure ownership. It pauses contracts, pauses momentum, pauses revenue. The very thing that could create more millionaires in the league gets delayed. We've heard comments about wanting more WNBA millionaires, and that's fair. Longevity in the league should translate to financial security. But the one thing that immediately halts that pipeline, a work stoppage. That's just math. At the end of the day, this is business. The league recognizes the players drive the product. The players recognize the league carries the financial risk. Somewhere in the middle is the deal. And for the first time in a while, it feels like both sides might actually be walking toward that middle instead of away from it. And honestly, that's the most positive update we've had in a minute. Here's Sid. Let's go. Yesh. Can the league hurry up, though, and wrap this up by end of month? A WNBA season in 2026. Here said, Breonna Stewart should be the only one speaking going forward. She's a vet, understands that there's a big gap between what the top 1/4 of the league can withstand versus the rest. Comes across tough, but with optimism. Hasn't put her foot in her mouth. I'd run it all through her. A deal will ultimately get done, I feel. The WNBA team owners have too much at the stake this season, in the coming seasons, with franchise expansion to allow a lockout. Stewie seems to be an optimist, and I love her for that. I would like to also hear from the more pessimistic ones. Finally, a good update. Yeah, whatever. Let us know when something's signed. Keep it going. Thank God. When is free agency supposed to start? Fee would have said something crazy. Stewie's always so optimistic. Let me change my mindset, fra. My goat's gonna have a rookie season, trust. There may be a season after all. Would you look at what communicating does? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Finally, some good fucking news. Yeah, man. Who knew all they really wanted was a free league pass? Yeah, it is what it is. I listened to the Game Recognized Game podcast, which is dated from yesterday, and I do recommend you listen to the whole segment. Here's the whole quote. The prompt was, do you feel better about the prospects of having a full season? Here's Stewie. I'm feeling better. I'm feeling like the owners are finally really acknowledging and being receptive of what we want and the players as well. You know, we all had to kind of put our business hats on and get into that mindset. And I'm hoping we can get this thing done quickly so then we're not late. And that's the thing. It's like I've been telling them, now that we're part of a revenue shared model, you miss games, it's less money. And not to say that we should submit and just say yes to any proposal that we don't like, but this is a business now, and this is how businesses go. A few things to point out. First is Stewie characterizing putting their business hats and mindset on, which implies they really didn't have them on before. Regardless of how frustrated we may be that it's taken them until now to get to this point, the fact is that they are there now, and there has apparently already been some substantive give and take on both sides. She says, it finally feels like there is some traction. Well, that can be taken as nothing but a positive. Second, the fact that she is making reference to now being in a revenue-sharing model. She makes reference to this in other parts of the interview as well, and it's clear that they have hammered out something that is substantially different than what was in the old CBA, which was based on net revenue. Does this mean they have figured out net versus gross? I don't know, but the fact that she is referencing it as something totally new is absolutely huge. Finally, although a strike is not off the table, both in this interview and in the AU ESPN article just published today, it seems that they are not in a strike mentality. I'm frankly shocked by this given the nature of the proposal the league sent last weekend. I thought the players would find it woefully inadequate, but maybe not? If they were in a strike mentality, I truly think they would have done it by now. They're missing their most visible opportunity to picket this weekend at NBA All-Star. In any case, things seem exponentially more positive than they were like 2 weeks ago. So let's really talk about this from a real, grounded place. When it comes down to it, and I know this might sound wild, I genuinely believe that if you stripped everything away and just asked her about hooping, Breanna Stewart would play in the WNBA for free. Now, obviously, that's never going to happen. It shouldn't happen. Players deserve to be paid. But I'm talking about love of the game. I'm talking about someone who genuinely loves the W, believes in it, built her legacy in it, and wants it to thrive. Here's said, let's go. Here's said, here's finally some good news regarding the CBA. Yeah, man. That being said, she's also part of the Players Association. She has a responsibility bigger than herself. Even if she personally would lace them up regardless, she represents a group of players with different motivations, different financial needs, and different long-term goals. And let's be honest, not every player views the league the same way. I do think there are some players who, for various reasons, are frustrated enough with the current revenue-sharing structure or the league's ties to the NBA model that they'd almost rather see the system reset entirely than continue under terms they don't believe in. That's a real tension. Some players see reform, others see replacement. But here's the bigger reality nobody wants to say out loud. There is no 2027 WNBA season without a 2026 one. This isn't just about whether a single season gets delayed. This isn't a short-term leverage play. This is about whether the league and the players can align enough to continue the league long-term. That's the stakes. This CBA isn't just, are we playing next season? It's, are we continuing this version of the WNBA? That's a massive difference. Now, when you bring Unrivaled into the picture, and yes, that matters, the dynamic gets more complicated. From the outside looking in, it feels like Stewart's vision for Unrivaled was always supplemental, something to enhance player earnings in the offseason, something to give players a domestic alternative to overseas play, a support system for the WNBA, not a replacement. But with Nafisa Collier, sometimes it sounds like she sees Unrivaled as something that could stand on its own long-term, maybe even something that could evolve into a parallel structure if necessary. I'm not saying that's explicitly the plan, I don't know either of them personally, but that's the tone some people interpret. And I think there are players aligned with both perspectives. Now, let's play a hypothetical. If the WNBA came in tomorrow and offered $2 million max salaries, guaranteed, with a structure that essentially made it financially impractical to participate in outside leagues, that changes everything, especially if they built an internal winter system, training hubs, development programs, maybe even incorporated a 3-on-3 concept within the league control. If the money is high enough, the incentive to split focus disappears. Right now, Unrivaled contracts might look attractive in isolation, but if the WNBA salary cap jumps from roughly $3.5 million per team to something closer to $7 million, which I think is realistic, you're suddenly looking at max base salaries in the $1.7 to $1.75 million range. That's a seismic shift from the $200K max era. And yes, even at $1.75 million, there will still be underpaid stars. Caitlin Clark would be underpaid relative to her revenue impact. There are players who move ticket sales, TV ratings, sponsorships, players who generate tens of millions in value who will still be technically under market value because that's how salary caps work. The Bean has it. The NFL has it. Max contracts always create value imbalance. Some players outperform the deal, some don't. That's not personal, it's structural. The key is whether the pie gets big enough that even underpaid stars are still making life-changing money. If the salary cap hits $7 million per team, I don't believe ownership walks away over the final $1 to $1.5 million gap. That's not the kind of number you burn down a growing league over, especially when momentum is trending upward. And here's the quiet part. Unrivaled, by most reasonable standards, has already succeeded at what it set out to do. It proved there's a domestic offseason appetite. It proved players can generate alternative revenue streams. It strengthened bargaining leverage. But if the WNBA itself reaches a place where players are earning $1.75 million base with improved facilities, off-season support, and built-in development systems, the urgency for a standalone competitor decreases dramatically. When Stewie says things are finally heading in a direction and she's excited, that tells me something important. That doesn't sound like someone preparing for separation. That sounds like someone preparing for agreement. And at the end of the day, I still believe most players, even the frustrated ones, want the WNBA to succeed. They want the league to exist. They want it stronger. They want it fairer. This isn't about destroying the league. It's about redefining it. And if both sides are close enough to be talking real numbers instead of rhetoric, then we're probably closer than people think. Because nobody benefits from burning it down. But everybody benefits from getting it right. Tell me what you think. Don't forget like and subscribe.